we are married, we are doing different social things. So I think if we were to stand side by side now, we look very different.
Yeah,
yes.
One has gained more weight, that one is...
Yes, I think
right,
I hike more, so... One of the attributes that I will pick up that has guided me so far is integrity. And integrity, I mean, when I was evaluating myself, because I also spoke to quite a number of people, what came across is that I'm an honest person. I'm honest in my dealings with my clients, and I'm also honest with myself. Also known as a courteous advocate. I'm very respectful. When an advocate has to do a matter with me, they don't have to take an Panadol in the morning. I mean, we just get the work done. And then I have found value in independence. I'm independent as a lawyer. I do not get carried away by my clients. Of course, I've lost briefs that way. But through that independence, I have been able to give clients honest opinion. And in return, then I have been able to gain good work, valuable work, that has also impacted again on my integrity, because they know if they come to me, they will not get that. On respect, I think my respect has transcended from the bar across to the bench. I'm respectful to the bench, and I believe if the commission gets some feedback from the station where I work, I believe I'm not one of those who give them a rough time. Yes.
Now, my last two questions.
Yes.
How do you define an accountable judge, and by extension, an accountable judicial officer? Okay.
Accountability, I would look at accountability at two levels. I would define a judge who is accountable to the institution that employs him. So I would, if I am the judge, then I would be accountable to the Judicial Service Commission. And I think there is now a very clear reporting mechanism and performance measuring standards. But I believe a judge is also accountable to the public, to the station where they are posted. And one of the ways in which judges, in Mombasa, how we have held judges to account is through the bar bench committee. We have a very robust bar bench committee. I want to believe you have not received any bad letters from Mombasa lately, but it's because we sort out our things in-house at the bar bench. And I also believe that is to the advocates. But now to the wider public, the judge will be accountable to the CUC. And then the last one perhaps I would add is that a judge has to be accountable within the leadership of the court, the LMT, so that they are pulling their weight together with the other judges. More so especially if they are not the presiding judge of that station.
My final question then is that when you look at your experience garnered again thus far, now what is it that you think you can point out with specifics that now makes you a suitable judge, you know, in terms of the definition you've given, whether it's accountability, whether it's the attributes that you say you possess, and, you know, making you an impactful judge, you know, once you are appointed, if you indeed are appointed?
Let me go by integrity. One big thing I will bring to the judiciary is integrity. I will do that which is right. I would say I've fairly lived a simple life by trying to live within my means. So I will not succumb to the pressures that I have come across people succumbing to. I'm seeking to join the judiciary at a fairly mature age, so I know myself, and I value integrity. For people who value integrity, I think the name is all they have. And that is what I'll bring to the judiciary. Yes.
Thank you, Honorable Chair. Wakili, good morning once
Good
more.
morning, good morning.
I think your reputation precedes you, so we really don't need to go and try to fact find about you. I'll ask you very simple questions.
Okay.
A person who witnesses the commission of an offense and does not subsequently report that commission, is that person an accomplice?
Yes, I'll go with a yes.
Failing to report?
Failing to report
The commission of an
the
offense.
commission on offense.
Does that make you an accomplice?
I would go with a yes, but if it's not a yes, then I would have to check it. I would have
I think
to. Yes,
you need to
I'll
check that.
yeah.
And in
Some
particular, there is
yes.
a case that addresses that.
Okay.
That is the case of Anthony versus
Anthony.
the Republic 2011
That's it.
EKLR.
I will do that. And thank you so much, my lady.
Right.
Okay.
Now, again,
Yes.
because you're applying to be a judge,
Yes.
and we are looking for judges who will immediately take up their responsibilities and sit in court.
Mm-hmm.
So you've undertaken a criminal trial
Yes.
where there were several counts.
Mm-hmm.
When do you impose the sentences to run concurrently and or to run consecutively?
Okay. Thank you, my lady. I would impose the concurrent sentences. These are the ones that run one after the other.
Don't ask me.
Thank you. If I was to find the person guilty of several counts that run along the same series, the same counts in the same charge sheet, then I would impose a sentence that would run concurrently.
Fair enough. And
Yes.
consecutively?
Consecutively is if I was to find that person guilty of two different charges.
There are definitely two different charges.
Yes.
There is count 1, there is count 2, there is count 3, there is count 4.
Okay, I would go on a limb here and say if one sentence is longer than the other one.
I think this is an area of the law that you definitely need
Yes.
to refresh yourself.
Criminal is yes.
It's not
It
your
is.
forte.
It's not. I have once I made up my mind that I want to cross over. I started where I have done it. Mostly, you will see it's proper briefs,
Okay.
murder trials. Yes.
Finally, from
Thank
me,
you. Mhm.
what is a strict liability offense?
I believe a strict liability offense is the one where the prosecution does not have to prove intent. The fact that the
Give us an example.
I believe defilement. Is it defilement? Or is it some of these offenses that fall under consumer goods? Something like that.
Well.
Thank you.
We leave it at that. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, thank you very much.
Thank you.
will not continue on that line of criminal law,
Yes.
but we will now go to the Constitution
Thank you.
because we are looking at a judge who will be interpreting the Constitution.
Thank you, my lady.
First of all, are you aware of any statutes or provisions of statutes that have been declared unconstitutional? And if so, why?
Yes, and I'm hoping they'll come up now that I'm in a very cold place. Statutes would be held unconstitutional, would be declared unconstitutional because they contravene the Constitution. It's something I was looking at last week, something in the Law of Succession Act.
which has been declared unconstitutional.
Yes, unconstitutional, yes. I don't know why it's not coming up.
It's because of being on that hot seat?
I'm thinking it's because of also the change of the weather.
Okay, because you are from a very hot place.
Very hot place, yes.
Would it have to do with the distribution of the estate regarding the windows of a polygamous husband?
Yes, something like that. And I believe there is even a decision. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So what are the parameters that you would have to bring to bear when you have been faced with a case that is challenging the constitutionality of a statute?
Okay, thank you, my lady. I think for me as a judge, the beginning point would be that all statutes are constitutional. Because that is the people's representatives have passed them. So I would then mirror the statute or the provision of the statute against the Constitution to check whether it's consistent with or it contravenes the Constitution. That's the first step. Then secondly, I would look at the statute objectively to see whether it limits any of the fundamental rights.
Objective test.
Yes, objective test, but fundamental rights, or it even tries to limit maybe some of the powers given to some of the constitutional bodies like yourselves. And then I would also want to see whether it is whether the statute is ambiguous. Yes.
Thank you very much. I can take that. Going on to election disputes, because that's another jurisdiction of the High Court. Just explain to us, if you have an election dispute before you, what standard of proof would you apply in determining that?
Okay. I believe the standard of proof will be above on a balance of probabilities, but not as high as beyond reasonable doubt. So somewhere there in between.
In which case was that stated?
I may not be able to recall the case up front.
Yeah,
but sorry for that.
Justice Majanja.
Thank you.
Good morning once again.
Good morning, Judge.
First of all, I'd like to thank you for your service to the Mombasa Law Society. I've seen you have been very committed in the position you have held, and that is commendable.
Thank you.
I'm looking at your CV, and one thing that struck me is that you have been involved in mediation.
Yes.
Some successful, some successful. Can you tell us, if you cross over to this, what lessons have you learned out of that process that you would become a better judge if you are appointed in terms of dealing with mediation?
So that I understand you correctly, if I'm appointed?
Yes, if you are a judge, what experience, bringing that experience to bear, what would you do better?
Okay. The experience I have gotten is that our registries perhaps are not that committed in screening matters. The judges have an idea, because when you finally end up before the judge, they ask, why is this matter not before a mediator? So the screening, I would insist on a thorough screening. And then I have seen that when parties go for mediation early, not after 7 years. After 7 years, people are tired, and people have, their positions have become very, very stuck. So the earlier you send parties for mediation, the better. So I would either work very closely with my deputy registrar, or because there is experience. I have seen matters, especially family matters that involve a brother and a sister, relatives. Those are matters that are easily mediatable. The other one is that there is a matter that I went for 7 mediation sessions, and I have always attended the mediations that have been referred to as an advocate. We had 3 extensions. After every 60 days, we had to go for an extension. But finally, we were able to resolve that matter. Now, if we had been cut off, because I had to plead with the court and say, we are almost getting there. If we had been cut off, then we would not have been able to resolve. Okay. The other thing I would do is I would encourage the bar that I would be posted to just come up with a system, or even the LMT, a system of identifying the champions of mediation. Because we, as advocates, sometimes are the ones who are failing the process. Once you let your client know that you are better off with, like one of the cases I've mentioned there, it was a 12-year-old dispute over land. We resolved it in 1 day. But if the advocates were not there, those parties would never have resolved that matter.
And finally, I've also seen you've set out criminal litigation. I'm just wondering why you didn't mention the matters where your clients were convicted or your appeals failed.
Yes, my client was, the Bakari. Bakari was convicted. It's just that I believe we made we did very humble submissions. He was the only convicted for a day.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I wish you well.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning once again, Council.
Thank you, Commissioner.
For me, I'll congratulate you for reaching Mount Kenya, the peak of Mount Kenya. One day, I think I'll get there. Kilimanjaro? No, it was Mount Kenya. Oh, okay, Judge.
Commissioner, I can say this.
Yes.
When I was making this application, I indicated in my CV that I will be climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
So it was
that was before. So there was no way I was going to come and tell you I failed.
Okay, it's Judge who is confusing me because I know it's Mount Kenya.
Mount Kenya and Kilimanjaro.
Yes,
I've done
yes.
both, yeah.
Oh, great. I just want to understand your approach to deciding cases, and I'll read out a statement from Judge Ketanji Brown during her confirmation hearing with regards to the issue whether Constitution is a living document or not. This is what she said: courts must apply established constitutional principles to new circumstances, but the meaning of the Constitution itself is fixed and does not change or evolve. Do you agree with that statement?
Sorry, come back again, and I'm sorry for that.
Courts must apply established constitutional principles to new circumstances, but the meaning of the Constitution itself is fixed and does not change or evolve. Do you agree with that statement? Yes or no, and you can give your reasons.
Yes, let me agree with the statement. We passed our Constitution in the year 2010. We are now in the year 2023. So in as much as our Constitution was visionary and is visionary, it was passed at a particular point of time, but this Constitution still keeps on talking to us and to the peculiar circumstances that we live in. So there are new and emerging issues. I want to believe by the time we passed the Constitution, issues like intersex had not come to the fore. And those are rights. And it is for this court, it is for the courts to apply the rights of the intersex, which are also equal to anybody else's rights. Recently, I came across a decision from the Supreme Court on the issues of partnerships. These are not marriages, but partnerships. And those were not issues we had contemplated in the year 2010. But looking at that decision, and looking at even the communities that we are living in, I can see that the courts will be very soon called to interpret the Constitution to give life to those types of relationships.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. I've also gone through your sample writing. You write well.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
But I've also noticed that you like using what is known as purple prose in terms of flowery language, poetic and melodramatic language. And one of it, just allow me to go to that. There was the insurance matter. And okay, part of your submission reads, having promised the respondent an umbrella in case it rains, the appellant withdrew the offer at the first drop of rain. And then the other one is a criminal case, must have been murder. You go ahead in a paragraph to highlight some of the Swahili saying with regards to drunkardness. So there is hasira ni hasara. There is, I may not be very good with Swahili now that I'm in Kisumu. Kadiri, that I'll not say. I am not able to. Gongo likiingia bongo hukimbia. Hapa pombe linapokuwa ndani akili hakuna. Penye mvinyo ndio penye hatari. So this could be your style of writing, and there are those who feel this type of writing may not go well with a party to a case. So if appointed a judge, how are you going to ensure that you minimize the use of purple prose?
Purple prose, okay.
Yes.
I'll be the first to say that the reason why we use purple prose is because of a training we've gone through now as advocates, trying to push forward a case, so only representing one party. But I agree with you that when I'm writing a decision and that decision impacts on several parties, and the courts are not there to judge morals. We will judge on the facts and the law. So I'll be very careful, and I'm receptive. I'm trainable, and I know if I'm successful, I'll be taken through a training by senior judges. I am aware that, and I have seen judgments that we had an incident in Mombasa where a senior lawyer was called a coward of the county, and that didn't go very well. The judge may have meant well because that is a decision of the court, but perhaps that did not rub the other parties the right way. So I'll be, but where, okay, I happen to have gone to the same school as Honorable Justice Madan, and he has very, very, very colorful prose. So where I'll be able to pick up and make sense of, make use of it so that it makes sense, then I will try. But of course, I know with the workload that is in the judiciary, that would be a luxury once in a while.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you. Good to hear that.
Okay.
I wish you the very best. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Honorable CJ. I have to say a few words before I ask you a few questions. I have to say that I heard of you, just like Honorable Machere Njoroge was saying. I heard of you when I met your twin brother. I met your twin brother, who later came to work for me as an associate at the law firm of Ibrahim Isaac. Sorry. And I worked with him, but I asked myself, my conscience, whether there is any conflict of interest, whether I should disqualify myself from interviewing you or being part of this panel. But after 21 years ago, the last time I was working with your brother was 21 years ago.
True.
Time has lapsed, and then I've known your work in Mombasa when I was the resident judge. I saw your work, and we worked together when you were at the Law Society, very active. And I told myself that it's my duty to continue being in the panel as we interview you.
Thank you.
And I see no element of conflict of interest. Having said that, I've read your sample writings. I've read I know about your background. I've read what your achievements. I didn't know about how ardent you are, a mountain climber. But in view of all this, I only have, one or two questions for you. Now, you have read the Sturge.
Yes, I have.
And I know you must have, you are aware of the main aspects or features.
Yes.
The primary, what is the primary aspect or principle that you recognize in Sturge? And if so, you tell us which one it is, and whether after 2.5 years there has been a progress or achievement of some of the intended outcomes.
Yes, for me, what I pick up as the main what speaks to me is the social justice. We truly needed and we need to change the culture in this country as far as we relate to justice. We, of course, now have the multi-door approach to justice. So we are, the judiciary is identifying that there are institutions out there, outside the judiciary, that are able to resolve people's problems. And when I was going through stage, if you just allow me to say this, it just brought to fore that there is a courthouse that's supposed to be coming up in the village where I was born, that's not where I live, called Kamwangi Law Courts. And what I see in the vision of that court is that there will be sent a magistrate, and that magistrate will, it's a small market town, everything revolves around the market. That market has a way of settling their own disputes. They have the committee that sits and hears and decides. It would be sad if the court would go to disrupt that process and render that justice system useless, and then clog the courts with court cases. I'm also encouraged by the idea that we will start recognizing champions of justice, because they exist, they are there. As a young, sorry, can I stop there?
Yes, yeah, just.
No, as a young man, maybe at the age of 16, I happened to see the local chief case, which was held in our village. It was a dispute involving the local traditional divorce and distribution of property. That case was done in one day, one afternoon, and it was finalized. If it had been sent to court, maybe it would have taken about 3 or 4 years. So we need to identify those sectors and grow them.
Thank you.
Yes.
I wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Chair. And I have only one question for you. Now, would you tell us very, very briefly how the judiciary is structured, and tell us why it is important to have an independent judiciary? I want to believe you're asking me about the hierarchy of the judiciary. Yes. So we have, at the top, we have the Supreme Court. And then, is that a question I'm answering? Yes. Yeah. You understand how the judiciary is structured to make it function?
I'm sorry. Maybe I'm understanding.
Well,
hierarchy of the courts. Maybe I'm getting it wrong.
You know, judiciary has also the Judicial Service Commission.
Yes.
Yeah. So I want you to tell us from your understanding how is it structured? Where is the place for the Judicial Service Commission in judiciary, and how you are now making me to lead you into the answers.
No. No. And you understand. I was off tangent, and I'm sorry for that. Okay. So as a third arm of government, the judiciary, the administrative arm of the judiciary now becomes the Judicial Service Commission, headed by the Chief Justice. And there are commissioners either elected or appointed. And then we have your Chief Registrar, who is the accounting officer of the judiciary, and the secretary to the Judicial Service Commission. It looks like I have not satisfied your answer. I'm sorry.
Well, maybe we can pass that, and we go to why is it important to have an independent judiciary?
Okay. It's important to have the judiciary must be independent. This is the judiciary is the one that makes determinations of disputes, including disputes between the other two arms of government. So the judiciary must be able to be seen, because independence gives you the capacity to make rational, honest, and unbiased decisions. So the judiciary must be seen in that light. And then for the people in Kenya to be able to bring their disputes to the court, they also must believe that they are bringing their disputes to an arm of government that is independent. Lastly, There is always a feeling by the other arms of government to overreach and control the judiciary or steer the judiciary in a certain area. So again, the judiciary must protect and must uphold the independence, which is actually provided for by the Constitution. It's a constitutional underpinning.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning once again,
Thank you,
Mr. Njoroge.
Commissioner.
Before we start, I want to correct something you said,
Yes.
which will annoy people around here in this room.
Yes.
We are not the third arm of government. We are one of the three arms of
You're
government.
one of, yes.
So I'm giving you an opportunity to scratch that so that you earn marks on that you
let's
have
scratch
lost.
that. And I know there's a commissioner somewhere watching who will be very annoyed because that she has always said that you're not the third arm. Huh?
Yes.
Yes. You are an important arm of the government.
Yes.
Yes.
I needed to correct that.
Thank you.
Now, I see you've been slaying mountains. Congratulations on slaying Kilimanjaro, which I'm sure was no mean feat. And I know generally just, climbing mountains is not a very difficult, not a very easy thing.
Yes.
I have seen the pictures you have put amongst your documents, and I'm sure it wasn't just to impress us with how colorful they are. There's a message I imagine you're trying to communicate.
Yes.
And I want just to be sure that we are all getting the right message.
Yes.
So could you tell us that message?
Okay. And I'm hoping that once you finish this process, Commissioner Mashari will propose that you take a debrief hike. Climbing mountains, there's a lot of preparation, that's one. Mm-hmm. But the main thing is tenacity. You must be able to put one foot forward, even when the air becomes thin, even when it becomes very cold. And I hike from Mombasa, and these are Arctic regions. So you must be able to slog and keep slogging and keep slogging. I know you may not have a chance to read some of this way, but sometimes you want to give up, and then you're encouraged. You meet people who will encourage you. We have a backlog in the judiciary. The backlog needs to be cleared. Judges who will be tenacious. You come, find a mountain, and you must climb that mountain, the backlog. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Tenacity by itself may not necessarily keep you going.
Yes.
If you lose motivation.
Yes, true.
I want to read your quote here.
Yes.
It says, it says, if we really want high performance in our organization, the solution isn't to entice people with a bigger carrot or threaten them with a longer stick. We need to understand the intrinsic motivation. I'll read it again.
Mm-hmm.
If we really want high performance in our organization, the solution isn't to entice people with a bigger carrot or threaten them with a longer stick.
Mm-hmm.
We need to understand the intrinsic motivation.
Yes.
Now, looking at the performance measurement framework that we have in the judiciary,
True.
do you think it reflects this? And if you think it doesn't, maybe you can tell us why and what we can do to improve it.
Okay, and I will be speaking from the information that I've been getting from your colleagues. It may not really be capturing everything because it's putting judicial officers under a lot of pressure. And there seems to be a lot of emphasis on concluding and closing, not concluding, but closing files. And if you don't close files, perhaps if a judicial officer appears here, unlike me, they will be faced with performance. So people will work in whichever way they can to make sure that their numbers look good. Now, one of the things, because you're in the justice chain, justice system, and what you are actually providing to the country is justice. The quality of justice is important. The quality of justice is important. So, following the conversations I have seen, there are magistrates and judges who are handling very high-profile or high task-oriented dockets. Maybe PMMUs need to be tweaked a little bit. Now that you have done it for a time, tweaked a little bit so that you can be able to pick up on the issues of quality. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. The other area I wanted to engage you on is on the issue of judicial independence, which my sister has already engaged you on, but I want to look at it from a different angle.
Thank you.
We are always talking about judicial independence. It's there in Article 160.
Yes, true.
Now, I just want to hear from you, independence from who?
Okay. Commissioner, I want to believe that it is, apart from independence from the other arms of government, then it's also independence from your colleagues. It has to be independence from your family, even your religion. It has to be independence from the commercial, from the people who surround you and who are constantly trying to veer the court into a certain direction. It's also independence from the bar.
Yes.
Yeah, it has to be independence from the bar.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, and in that line, I would just want to hear from you what you think about this increasing, I don't want to call it a habit or incidents that we have of members of the bar sort of taking over and dictating who works where to the judiciary. What is your view about that? Because I know in the past we had, maybe not lately, but we had that in Mombasa, but we've also had it in other areas in the country. What is your view about that?
Yes, yeah, and I was counsel then. I was in the leadership then. What happened is you took a very good judicial officer from Mombasa, and we behaved like we would have behaved when we were in high school. He said that principal cannot go. But when we tried to agitate, we were told, you know, judicial officers are posted by the judiciary. If you make noise, we will not even post anybody. And a judicial officer has to serve everywhere. I think independence, your independence also means independence of being able to know which judicial officer is required where to do what. Because internally you know their skills. If you appoint me, you know that I will have to play catch up with my criminal law. So if you send me to a station that handles appeals from Makadara, I would catch up. I know definitely I would catch up, but perhaps that's not the station you'd want to. So we need to leave the issue of posting administration of the judiciary to the judiciary itself, and especially to this commission and the Honorable Chief Justice.
Thank you, and I wish you well. Thank you, my lady.
Yes, thank you, Honorable CJ. Now I see you are quite active in climbing mountains. What else do you do for the public, for the society?
Okay, so let me mention three. I educate children back where I was born. I did not put it in my CV because sometimes we think, we are told what your right hand does, but I had started up, we had started something in a high school, our local high school, where we were trying to motivate children to study well and go to the university. That school had been in operation since 1980 and had never taken any child to university. And we succeeded. Once we succeeded, I was told that I am eyeing a political seat, which I have never had any interest in. So I pulled back, and now I do quiet school fees payment. Secondly, you will perhaps see that we had during COVID, we were able to mobilize the disabled people in Mombasa, because the history back is that Mombasa law courts was closed because of COVID, and we were in a place that had been affected by cessation of business, of movement. So the only way we could open up was to get vaccinated. So I was very instrumental in encouraging and rallying advocates and their clerks and their secretaries to come and get motivated. And we were doing so, we also brought in the disabled people. And Red Cross assisted us with the facilities. The Mombasa County gave us the vaccine, and we vaccinated them. The other public engagement, public engagements I do is within the society itself. I do a lot of public work within the society of lawyers. Yes.
Okay. There is a case in which the Kenyan government went to court with Somalia.
Yes.
Which court was it? What was the outcome? And how did you arrive at such an outcome?
I believe the case we went to, was a boundary dispute. Somalia must have been the boundary dispute, and the decision was the decision came out in favor of Somalia. Yes.
How did it happen that way?
We had Kenya had maintained its boundaries, its international boundaries, along the sea line or the shore, as running, is it perpendicular, parallel to our shoreline?
Yes.
And Somalia was saying that it should run from the border point. It should run in a straight line. So in essence, what had happened is that Kenya was seen to be encroaching on Somalia's international waters.
Mm-hmm.
So the dispute was resolved in favor of Somalia.
Who won in that case? That is, Somalia did.
Somalia did, yes.
What was the reasons why Kenya lost? Would you know?
There have been, firstly, it's not a case that I have really interacted with, but I'll say one of the things I have had, and this is a hearing, is that we did not get very good representation, or at one time we didn't get representation.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you.
Mr. Benjamin, my question to you is around the area of integrity.
Yes.
And you've mentioned to this commission that you're a person of integrity.
Yes.
Now, this is your own judgment about yourself.
Yes.
And we want to judge you on that.
Yes.
Please give us 2 scenarios where you have demonstrated that you're a person of integrity.
Okay. 2 scenarios. One, when I was the chairman of Mombasa, I became the chairman of Mombasa Law Society. I suddenly noticed I was getting a lot of briefs which were not very common to my law firm.
What do you mean by briefs?
I was getting clients who were coming to instruct me. So, for example, I handle conveyancing, but I do not handle conveyancing for developers. So suddenly I found the people who would be like the status of developers, people putting up the high-rise apartments, were coming to my law firm and giving me instructions to handle their disputes, especially disputes around land in my office. So I would handle some would come and would disagree on fees and they'll go away. But one was brave enough to come and tell me, we are going to give you this brief because we know you know the presiding judge in Mombasa. I did not take that brief, and I rebuffed it. And I told him, you know, the judge in Mombasa was a judge that we respected each other a lot. And by virtue of being a chairman, you get access to the presiding judge. It's an office you can go, sit down, talk. So that is the message that was being sent, or that's what the perception was, that I was very close to a judicial officer. I could be given money to go to take to that judicial officer. So I said no to that. I lost a client, but I maintained my integrity. The other one is when I opened up my law firm, I struggled a little bit to build up my clientele. But one day, a client came with a routine transaction, and we did a lease. Perhaps this was to gauge how quickly I could do my work, and we did it, and they went away. Then they came back 2 days later, and they told me they were selling fertilizer. And what they wanted me to do, there was a buyer of the fertilizer. The money was supposed to pass through my office. And then the person buying, once the money hits my office, I would pay to the people selling the fertilizers. Let me call it the crooks. And then the person buying the fertilizer would go and collect his fertilizer from the go down. The person who was buying the fertilizer was brought to my office. I met him, I saw him. So But I got some gut instincts that this transaction, one, it was too big. Too big. I had not done a transaction of that nature. And then I was wondering, why is this money passing through my account? So I had a good, and I still have a very good relationship with my previous employer. He's one of my mentors. So I called him, and he only asked me one question. He asked me, Njoroge, he can be very, very tough with me. He told me, Njoroge, since when did lawyers start selling fertilizer? And that's how I dropped that transaction. I'll say this, Commissioner. I have seen my colleagues taking plea in Mombasa Chief Magistrates Court number 1 because of issues of sugar and fertilizer. And I have learned how to, at this age, I have learned how to navigate and be able to be perceptive of corruption, the smell test. If suddenly I was to be invited to the governor of Mombasa's house for a birthday party, I would ask myself, and I'm not saying that would be corruption, but I would need to ask myself as a judge, why am I being invited to that birthday party? So gut instinct and learning to smell corruption. Yeah.
Okay. I'm satisfied that you're able to look around your environs and make a decision. Thank you for that.
I don't know whether there is any other question. Thank you very much, Mr. Njoroge, for this very engaging interaction with the commissioners. I think this brings us to the end of the interview. On behalf of the commissioners, we thank you very much for availing yourself and also for the good work that you're doing of supporting the bar and the bench, the activities that you do to support access to justice. Before we end, we always give our candidates an opportunity to ask us a question, if you have any.
Thank you. I don't have a question, but just allow me to say 3 things very, very quick.
Yes.
Firstly, salamu kutoka Mombasa. I hope mumezipokea. Secondly, I know in as much as you have these smiling faces, so from the background, I have gotten information that the commission is actually bereaved and you're going somewhere after. That is the information I got. Because I was called earlier. You've lost a magistrate or something like that. So you're going for a requiem mass.
Oh, yes, we
so
did.
So I know now you're doing these interviews against that background.
Yes.
So I appreciate. Lastly, perhaps maybe because people don't tell you this, this is my first time to appear before you. And I have been treated with dignity. Dignity is an inherent right. I think the commission must be the one that first shows how other judicial officers or judges are to treat people. And I believe the judges that you will recruit through this process, in the manner in which you are doing this year, you know, we are in study groups. So we are saying this year you're very good. Thank you very much. So maintain the dignity. Any judge recruited under this process will be able to maintain dignity in their courts.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We wish you all the best. Also, we send you with greetings to Mombasa. It's one of our key stations handling a lot of matters, and we value the support of everybody who works towards making justice accessible to the people. So take our greetings to the Mombasa people. And we wish you well. We'll get in touch with you when we complete the process.
Thank you, and I appreciate it. Have a good morning.
Yeah, good day too.